Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 8th of November, 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, I'm sure most of you, or if not all of you, have already seen this tweet that I put out over the weekend, but I did want to kind of like expand on it, give you guys a bit of background of why kind of like this sort of stuff happened, and kind of like give some context around this. So, for those of you who don't know, I put out this tweet on the weekend saying, I spent the last 4 years fighting lies, misinformation, and toxicity around Ethereum. Unfortunately, it has now caught up with me and taken an extreme toll on my mental health. So for now, my Twitter watch has ended, but I hope that many awesome Ethereans can pick up where I'm leaving off. And then I continued saying that this would only apply to Twitter. I'm, of course, still going to be doing the Daily Gwei, right? I'm watching it right now, everything that I've been doing. And the only real thing that applies to Twitter is the fact that I'm not going to be kind of like getting active within the different Twitter threads and different kind of like Twitter fights and bouts and all those sorts of things. I'll still be tweeting myself, of course, but I realized that it got to a point where my following grew so large, so quickly as well. I didn't really notice it happening. And then I didn't notice kind of like my enjoyment on Twitter going down a lot, because what would happen is I'd put out a tweet, right, or whatever, like about Ethereum, obviously. And then I'd get all these kind of like reply guys in there being like, you know, Ethereum's going to die. This and this is going to kill it. Ethereum gas fees are ridiculous. Fix it. And I looked at that and I'm just like, why am I even subjecting myself to this crap? Like, why am I even reading these replies? Why am I even bothering with this? Like, I did it for the last 4 years because I felt like I needed to do it. I was much smaller. I felt like there wasn't actually anyone defending Ethereum against this stuff or calling it out or kind of getting into the weeds, and I was happy to do it then. But, you know, as I said, my following grew so large now that it's just like, it can't just be up to me anymore. There needs to be other people kind of like doing this, which they are. There's plenty of people on Twitter that are doing this and doing what I've kind of like been doing for the last 4 years, and it didn't used to be. So to give you, I guess, a bit of context and history about this and how I got my start, basically, Ethereum had like a really, I guess, like a really big boom and bust between 2017 and 2018. Obviously, in 2017, it went from $10 to $1,400. Everyone was talking about Ethereum because ICOs were like the biggest thing ever. And that's what brought in the most amount of money and the most amount of people. Then ETH topped at 1,400-ish in January of 2018, like early January of 2018. And it came down really quickly from there. Like, I'm pretty sure within like a few weeks it had come down to like $600 or $700 or something like that. And for a few months there, people were like, you know, we're just cooling down for the next leg up, blah, 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 whatever. And this was around the time, I think March or April, where I started my first crypto newsletter. And I was getting more active on Twitter as well. I was kind of like pointing out to people why they were, you know, what they were saying was wrong. Especially a lot of Bitcoin maximalists back then would love to FUD Ethereum. But then all throughout 2018, it just got worse and worse because the price kept falling. You know, everyone was calling Ethereum dead, right? Ethereum didn't have much of a community because the ICO, people who came for the ICOs weren't the Ethereum community at all, right? The Ethereum community was basically a small group of builders, kind of like who really believed in the mission, really wanted to see these things succeed. And then there was like a small amount of like community members like myself and Eric Connor, who I started ETHUB with, and obviously like a bunch of others like Ryan Sean Adams, David Hoffman, DC Investor. There's plenty of people. I'm not going to name them all, but you'll know them because they grew like I did. Their Twitter accounts is probably as large as mine is these days, and they do a lot for the community, a lot for the ecosystem. And they just started as like community members, just like I did. So we all did that during 2018 and 2019 especially, and it continued into 2020. Of course, and in 2021 as well. Not so much as it was during those first couple of years in 2018 and 2019, but that was much worse than it is today, right? There was literally like there was hardly anything positive about Ethereum on Twitter, even on Reddit, and just generally it felt like Ethereum had gone from this super high position, but at the end of 2017, like everyone was on a high because the price had gone crazy. It kept going up. It felt like Ethereum kind of was on top of the world. People believed that proof of stake was right around the corner. Nothing kind of like felt like it was bad. And then we got the reality check in 2018. And that reality check came hard, like very, very hard. ETH's price dropped 94% in those 12 months in 2018. And with the price, the sentiment went. Like it was extremely bad. And hilariously enough, a lot of the people who are Ethereum fans today were actually busy FUDding Ethereum back then. So, so from there, I guess like that's just the context and history around kind of like why I've gotten to this position now where I'm like, I don't need to be a foot soldier anymore. I don't need to be in all these threads defending Ethereum like I have been for the last 4 years. As I said, like my following's much greater. I have a much larger audience now, and there's many more people that can actually do what what I was doing. And these people are newer to the ecosystem. They don't, they don't have all these baggage that I do at this point. And they have. They don't have kind of like all the commitments that I do as well. Like I'm doing a lot within the ecosystem, right? I'm doing the Daily Gwei stuff, ETHUB stuff, helping out a bunch of different projects. I just also do not have the time to sit in these kind of like Twitter threads and read all the replies and everything like that. So I figured it's time to radically change how I use Twitter specifically, which means that basically means I'll still be tweeting, but I'm not going to be reading or replying to anything anymore. Because like if you go to one of my tweets, especially one of the more popular ones, and read through the replies, it's just such a wasteland. Like it's so bad. And I was getting to the point where I was blocking like 50 to 100 counts a day, and I was like, why am I even bothering with this? It's such a waste of time. So now I'm just tweeting and muting the conversation straight away. I'm not even letting notifications show up for anyone right now. And that's kind of like already helped. Like it feels like a massive weight has come off my shoulders. But that doesn't mean that I'm giving up on Ethereum or anything or not fighting for it. I just feel like I do much better at educating about Ethereum on the Refuel, on my newsletter, in ETHUB, in kind of like all the tweeting that I do where I don't reply to people. And then if people need to be kind of like put in their place for saying something wrong about Ethereum or educated within the comments, I can leave that up to the people that learn from me, right? Like I can basically be the one that kind of like passes on the message to these people because my audience is so large, and then they can filter it down to others. It's not up to me anymore to be everywhere. Like I think that's what ended up happening was that my following just, as I said, grew so quickly that I never kind of like adjusted from there. Because if you'll notice, many of the big accounts on Twitter, they don't actually do what I was doing. They don't go in and reply to everyone, random people with like hardly any followers that are just kind of like crapping all over them. No, they don't reply. They'll reply to their friends sometimes. Obviously, the people that are just as big as them and their friends. I typically reply to my friends as well. And the ones that I know aren't, shit posting or whatever, or just kind of like, bagging out Ethereum, but they'll never get in the weeds. And I noticed that, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is just so bad. So I'm all right. Like mentally, I'm fine. It's been good to kind of like just over the last couple of days kind of like take a little bit of a different stance here, but it did weigh me down a lot, and I felt like I felt bad about it initially, where I was like, I need to do this and I need to stop kind of like doing what I'm doing, but I felt bad about it because I'd been doing it for so long. It felt like I felt like maybe people thought that I'd be giving up on Ethereum, right? That I'd be giving up on everything that I've been trying to do, but and then I felt like, okay, well, I just got to put this out. I have to publicly signal this, and that's the only way I'll know how people feel about this. And honestly, the outpouring of support has been amazing. Thank you to anyone listening or watching this that kind of like reached out to me. If I haven't replied to you yet, it's because I literally got like over 100 DMs over the past kind of like 24 to 48 hours from people kind of like reaching out and supporting me and kind of like thanking me for all my work. That's why I do what I do. I don't do it to get like thrown, garbage tweets at when I'm not even talking to these people. I'm not, I don't even spend time bagging out any of the ecosystems. The only ecosystem that I kind of like bag out is Cardano, because I actually believe Cardano is like completely vaporware. It's so bad. And I actually wanted to educate people about how bad it was, because I feel like that's just not going to end well. But usually whenever I talk about other ecosystems, I'm not bagging them out. Like I'll talk about like their from like a fundamental perspective. I'll kind of point out what I view as flaws, what I view kind of like Ethereum does better, and that's it. And then I get all this hate for not even kind of mentioning someone's favorite chain. Like for example, if I put a positive tweet out about Ethereum and how we're burning like all these ETH, all I get in the replies from so many people is like, yeah, you're burning that ETH, but like all the users are going to such and such chain, or all the users are going here, or the gas fees. I hate Ethereum because the gas fees are so high. And it's just like, I don't understand why people feel the need to reply to my tweets like that. So why should I feel the need to read those things? Because it just adds no value at all. So anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the rest of the details there, but I did want to kind of give context around that, because I felt like I owed it to you guys that obviously stick with me every day and watch my stuff, read my newsletter, just follow me around. And a lot of people said to me they don't want me to stop tweeting, and I'm not going to stop tweeting at all. I'm going to be sharing everything that I normally share, tweeting like I normally do, but I'm definitely not going to be getting into the weeds anymore. And if I don't read or reply to you on Twitter, it's simply because I'm not reading it anymore. Twitter just does a really poor job of filtering out the crap from the actual good comments. So there's just no way for me to do that. If you do want to talk to me, you can jump into the Daily Gwei Discord channel where it goes off every day. Like, we have so many awesome discussions in there all the time. It's so much more peaceful because if anyone's being a troll, I can just like ban them and get rid of them. But lucky enough, there hasn't actually been that many trolls. Or you can DM me on Twitter and I'll eventually get to it. If I don't reply for a while, just please know that I have like a backlog and I'm not ignoring you or whatever. But the Discord channel is just awesome in general. Like, I can't promote that enough, honestly. I should sell it better, but in my videos. But essentially, if you want to learn anything about Ethereum and even about other ecosystems, there are so many smart people in there. And even if you're kind of like a beginner, it doesn't matter because there's so many beginners in there as well. You can bounce ideas off each other. You can talk about different projects within the ecosystem. You can talk about other chains. Like, there's a whole channel called Other Chains dedicated to things that aren't Ethereum. Like, I don't police people and say, no, you can't talk about anything but Ethereum in here. But do know that obviously, like, it's an Ethereum heavy Discord. So if that's not your thing, I mean, I don't know why you'd be watching the refuel. But yeah, definitely join it there. And I did want to give a shout out to CryptoWife here, who put out kind of these couple of images, which I honestly, like, I love this. CryptoWife said, thank you, Sassal. How it started versus how it's going. It's basically a picture of me kind of like protecting Ethereum from all the attacks over the years, and then now on the other picture is just me, sleeping with Ethereum in the bed, and all the people on Twitter are defending me and Ethereum against all the attacks. And that's kind of like how I've kind of viewed it, is where I was there as the foot soldier for all these many years now, and my watch has basically ended in that kind of like regard. But I have a whole set of people that I've educated over the years that can take over and do that sort of stuff. And maybe they, as I said, they don't have the baggage that I have over the years, and they're more energized to do it. That's kind of like another reason why I do what I do, because the most scalable way for me to get the message out there is to do these sorts of things, is to educate via the videos, the refuel, the newsletter, and of course Twitter. But with Twitter, I can only amplify it through my own tweets now. I'm not going to be getting into the weeds to do that. So yeah, just wanted to thank CryptoWife for this. I mean, this really did warm my heart. Like, I came back to my PC because after I put that tweet out, I was like, screw this. I'm going to go watch some TV or something, get away from my computer for a bit. And then I came back and I saw this, and I was just like, yeah, this just really, really warmed my heart. So I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone reaching out and kind of like offering their support. But I'm going to leave it at that for now. As I said, if you want to talk to me about anything, feel free to DM me or just jump in the Discord channel and I'll be there. Unfortunately, I just cannot look at the replies to my tweets anymore. So yeah, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not looking at them. All right, so on to some news from the infrastructure bill. So you guys will remember, I guess probably a couple months ago now, there was all this fuss about this infrastructure bill that was being voted on in the US that included some really shitty crypto tax provisions, that were reporting provisions that were really unworkable, right? They didn't make any sense, and there was a lot of fight about it, and we actually made our voice heard. Unfortunately, because the infrastructure bill is such a critical bill in the US and it's such a kind of like politicized thing, and it needs to be done, it got passed. And it wasn't just like the crypto tax reporting provisions being stuffed in there. So much stuff was stuffed in there. And this is like a classic kind of like, I guess, I wouldn't call it a failure of democracy, but it's just like one of the bad parts of democracy, where you have all these bills that need to be voted on, but then when you have like a really big bill, like the infrastructure one, people want to stuff what they want in there, and they'll get it in there, and then it just gets voted on and passed through because it's such an important bill. But the bright side is here, and in Jerry Brito's thread, he goes through this. You can read this. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. The bright side is this: the crypto provisions will actually not take effect until January 1st, 2024. So we have quite a while until it goes into effect, right? We have about 2 and a bit years, and this can be fought in the courts. We can actually change this stuff. So the fight is not over yet. I don't think that the market really cares too much about this. I mean, we're at all-time highs, right, in price discovery. ETH is in price discovery. BTC is still trying to get back to its all-time high, but the market feels really, really good right now. But I think that's because the market understands that these sorts of things, it's going to be over 2 years until they go in. And secondly, it's completely unworkable and unenforceable, and it makes zero sense. And I would actually argue that I'm pretty positive that it's good to be positive around kind of like getting this changed, because we've got 2 years to do it. There's going to be every person that's involved in crypto that is also involved in kind of like the lobbying side of things. They're going to be going at this hard. Think about all the mega VCs out there that have billion-dollar funds. Think about all the centralized exchanges in the US like Coinbase. Think about all the individuals. Think about all the projects. They're all going to be banding together to go at this really, really hard to get this changed. And they're going to be, lobbying, bribing politicians as well, right, to get this done. So I think the market, as a broader kind of like, as a broad kind of stroke there, understands this. And I think a lot of you guys would understand that as well, and why that's going to end up like that. So yeah, I guess like thanks to Jerry from Coin Center for giving us this update. But as I said, not really anything to be concerned about at this point in time. But if it did go through it does as it exists today, and became law, even then it's just so unworkable. It doesn't make any sense. For example, if I remember correctly, some of the reporting provisions require liquidity providers to basically monitor everyone that's trading within their liquidity. And it just doesn't make any sense, because you can't monitor everyone trading on Uniswap, because people trading on the Uniswap pools, they're not tied to their address. Like, most of the addresses don't have an identity attached to them. So how are you supposed to do the proper reporting there? You can't. It's literally unworkable. So I'm not just saying that because it's crypto. I'm saying that because it just doesn't work. You can't make it workable. So yeah, I'll keep tabs on this. I'm not sure if we're going to hear about this for a while now from here, but I'm sure that there is a lot of going on in the background, a lot of money being thrown at getting this changed, and I'm confident we can get this changed before it becomes law, and change to something more positive as well. That's the important thing. All right, so today's ENS Airdrop day. Oh, well, depending when you watch this, it may have already happened. But at 7 p.m. US Eastern Time today, Monday, November 8th, that's when you'll be able to claim your ENS governance tokens at claim.ens domains. Now, a lot of people have been asking, what's the price going to be of the ENS token? I went through this kind of like, I think it was last week on the refuel, where I basically said that if you do a comparable trade to what, the GTC token is trading at right now, it's a very similar project in that Gitcoin and ENS are long-time Ethereum public goods projects. Both their tokens are governance tokens. Both of them are doing an airdrop. You could say like the minimum, or like at least a fair price would be around $10, which is around the same market cap that GTC has right now. But because the market is the way it is right now, it's hot, because this is going to be a new launch, because this is actually going to be airdropped to many more people. There's a lot more hype around this. I think it could go higher than that. I don't know, but we'll have to see, and we won't know, right, until the kind of like market goes live for this, which is not very far away now. But if you also want to know, kind of, I guess, what your kind of how many tokens you're getting, you can go view the list here. So the airdrop Merkle tree Nick shared here has your addresses there, so you can basically go there, Control F your address in, and see how many tokens you have. But this is the raw file, so you actually have to like it's kind of difficult, because you have to look at the number and then like go back 18 decimals. So someone made a really cool tool down in the comments here, I think. Yeah. So this is a visualizer. I'm not going to click it open here, but basically it allows you to paste in your address, and it'll tell you what your total ENS airdrop will be, and kind of like, how many tokens you got for your past registration, your future registration, and if you had your reverse record set. So definitely go visit this. I'll link it in the YouTube description. But yeah, hopefully, you got a sizable airdrop from this. Because there's so many addresses to distribute the airdrop to, it might not be one of the bigger airdrops out there. I think the most someone got in a single kind of address was like 1,200 ENS tokens, and if the price is $10, then it's like a $12,000 airdrop, right? Which is nothing to scoff at, but we've seen much larger airdrops before, because there was less users. But because there's so many users, it seems to be kind of like less there. But It depends. We'll see. I have no idea what the price is going to be, but as I said, you can do a very basic comparable valuation and get to like a $10 price because it's got a $100 million supply. 100 million supply. $10 is a $1 billion cap, which is around the same of what Gitcoin is right now in terms of fully diluted valuation, not circulating market cap, which is going to be different, of course. And the final thing on ENS is that a lot of you have been asking me who you should delegate your ENS tokens to. Look, there is not a central list, and this thread where everyone is putting their name in the hat has like 850 comments. So I hope they do kind of like have a central repository of people and like list them all there, and then we can actually see who's been delegated to and who's actually put their hat in the ring. But I'm not going to go through 800 comments and point out which people that I think you should delegate your ENS to, unfortunately. What I will do, though, is if you ask me in the Discord channel if I think that that person is a good delegate or if I think that person's legit, I will, of course, give you my opinion on that. I've been around Ethereum for a very long time, so I know who's a good actor and who's a bad actor. There's been a few that I saw out there, but I mean, you can kind of look here. Like just scrolling through the list here, CEM is a former kind of Ethereum core developer. You got Mehdi here who works as is an Ethereum core developer as well, I believe, or maybe it's a different person here. So it's kind of hard to tell as well. I'm just scrolling through the list. I mean, look at all these kind of like applications. It's Michal, he's good. He's been around for quite a while. He's the one who built the Crypto Fees website. If you've checked that out, plus all the other ones that are up there. He's done a fair few things within the ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of these. As I said, if you come across someone that you're thinking about delegating to, definitely hit me up on the Discord channel and I'll give you my opinion on them. I haven't decided who I'm out delegating to just yet. There is someone that I saw that I was really impressed with called Alex Vandersan. He has been around the Ethereum ecosystem since Genesis. He built the first Ethereum wallet. He's been a long time community member. I'm thinking maybe I'll delegate to him because I haven't really seen too many others. There's also Superfizz, who's very active within the staking community. I think Brantley, one of the ENS core contributors, put his hat in the ring as well. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it shakes out. And I think we'll get a short list eventually. But right now, it's kind of very hard to tell because there's just too many people that want to be a delegate, which is, it's kind of cool that so many people want to actually be actively involved in ENS governance, right? Like I say like as a negative thing because I can't scroll through them all, but it's actually a positive thing. But I'm curious to see like which ones actually end up with the most ENS tokens delegated to them. And some people asked me if I was going to be a delegate. I don't have the time, guys. Really, I would love to, but I just do not have the time to delegate to this, and I feel like there are plenty of people that have like plenty of really good people that have put their hat in the ring that I don't need to fill any shoes there. So yeah, definitely hit me up in Discord if you have someone that you would like my opinion on. All right, Polynya, their regular appearance on the Refuel, put out another interesting tweet thread today where they said, with zkRs or zero-knowledge rollups, account abstraction and smart wallets, the concept of transaction fees and TPS will be deemed irrelevant long-term. Indeed, you can see this today on DYDX, Immutable X, and SoRare. The concept of gas fees does not exist. They have literally $0 of gas fees. And then Polynya continues the thread. But what I wanted to focus on here is that a blockchain is just a database, right? It's a distributed database. It's not like a database is a new thing. It's been around for decades. We've used them for decades. We use them to scale up everything that we have on the internet today. But no one ever talks about the transaction fees of running those databases and those servers or the TPS that they give you for the end user. Like the developers will talk about it, of course, and people working on these things, they'll all talk about it. But we don't talk about it. Like I don't say, oh, how much TPS does this have? How much TPS does that have? How many, what are the transaction fees? Obviously, a lot of these services are free and you are the product, right? But, generally you don't think about these sorts of things. And the reason why you don't have to pay per transaction or per database, right, is because the costs are being covered by that centralized company. And if you want decentralization, if you want high security, then you can't do that, right? There is no one that can subsidize that cost for you. The cost is always coming from somewhere. And I've described this kind of thing before where these chains that offer super cheap fees, do you know who's subsidizing the cost of that? The people running the chain. And that's why these chains don't have many nodes and don't have many validators, is because they're super expensive to run. And I've given the example before of There's the EVM sidechains, of course, but then there's the more egregious examples like Solana, where the reason why the fees are basically free is because you have supernodes, which are kind of like equivalent to what you see in the Web 2 world, where these supernodes basically, or these kind of like super servers, are running these sorts of things, and they're bearing the cost, but they're making the money back through ads or other kind of revenue means. Whereas the kind of like Solana supernodes and validators, they're making their money because they're getting kind of like an inflationary reward in the Sol token. And that's the same for pretty much every network. It's the same for Ethereum, right? But with Ethereum, the reason why we keep the gas limit so low, aka the block size, and the fees are so high, is because of the fact that we want to keep it easy to run the chain. We want anyone to be able to run the chain. We don't just want some super beefy hardware to be able to do it. But then this is just for layer 1. We have layer 2. We have things like DYDX, which is a ZK rollup, Immutable X, and SoRare, which are both validiums, where you trade off a bit of security, but you get much more scalability. But none of these platforms have gas fees. None of them have there's not even a concept of them. No one thinks about their TPS or talks about their TPS. No one thinks about the fees because of the. But the thing is, you still get to inherit Ethereum security because of that's the way these constructions work. So it's a really awesome way to think about it, I think, and it's a really awesome way to frame it for people who may not understand. I get a lot of questions all the time from people who are like, why is Ethereum so expensive to use but this thing's free? And obviously it's a thing that is very technical and it kind of like is hard to explain, especially to newer people. But this is literally it. Like it's literally just a matter of who is bearing the cost of running the chain. Right now in Ethereum, the most of the cost is borne by, the cost is borne by like the full nodes. But the reason why the cost is very low for these full nodes is because of the fact that the chain is very, very easy to run, very easy to keep up with. Validating the chain is very easy, especially in proof of stake. Validating the Ethereum chain can be done by anyone. Yes, you have to put up like a 32 ETH kind of like stake, but I'm talking like hardware cost, right? So there is always a cost. Like nothing, you don't get anything for free, right? And that's why kind of people always say, like, if you're using a product for free, you are the product. And it's a bit in the Web 2 world. It's obviously nuanced in the Web 3 world. You can use a lot of these products for free or near cheap, and that's because they're getting paid out somewhere else. It's like if, for example, Facebook was able to kind of like issue 10% new stock each year to cover their running costs and be able to sell it into the markets, instead of kind of like running ads, right? It's kind of weird to think about that, but that's exactly what these crypto networks do, is that they issue their own native kind of like, it's not a stock or an equity, but like their own native asset to cover the cost of running the network. Whereas in the Web 2 world, they don't do these sorts of things. They basically just like monetize via ads and make all their kind of like profits and cover their costs through ads. So yeah, interesting thing to think about from Polynya here. On to the next update quickly. So play Ember Sword, or sorry, should I say Ember Sword, a kind of like game that's been around for quite a while now, crypto MMORPG, has announced that they're migrating to the Immutable X platform. They're going to be minting 48,000 NFTs on the Immutable X platform, gas-free, of course, because IMX is gas-free, and all of the in-game items will be secured by Ethereum. Really awesome to see this. I love seeing more gaming come to Immutable. Like, there's obviously a lot of NFT stuff that they're doing, and gaming falls right into that, but I'm loving seeing the fact that these games realize that let's just issue our things on Immutable, like issue our NFTs, issue our game assets on Immutable, have it secured by Ethereum, and they can still keep all their game logic off-chain, because that doesn't need to be on-chain. And they get the best of all worlds like that. And they can even keep player state on-chain as well. And imagine, you have a player state, and essentially what you want to do is you play the game and you want to put your state on layer 1 Ethereum, and you want to put your kind of like call data on, or your data on layer 1 Ethereum to have ultra security, but you don't want to do it very often because it's expensive. So when Immutable transitions to being a volition, what you can end up doing is, essentially, throughout the day while you're playing the game, or throughout the week when you're playing the game, you don't have to settle on Ethereum layer 1, but then every week maybe you settled on Ethereum layer 1 and you have like really, really strong security around the state of your game and around the state of your assets and your NFTs. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to do here. There's so many kind of like things that can be built around this, and there's so many more games coming. I'm just super excited. So yeah, really, really great to see that from Ember Sword and Immutable. MakerDAO's growth Twitter account put out a great tweet thread about DAI and kind of like the state of DAI and the state of Maker and what kind of like they've achieved over the last, I guess, year or so, or at least, in the last couple of weeks. I shouldn't say year or so. I think there was another thread where they talked about that. But essentially, DAI has been growing really fast. I mean, since October 1st, the supply increased by 28%. DAI supply surpassed the $8 billion milestone, I should say, sorry. And then it's becoming more and more decentralized again. So I think the most kind of like DAI backing is ETH right now instead of USDC, which is awesome to see. Some things about like Lido and accepting kind of like Lido staked ETH as collateral, and yeah, a bunch of other things here. So definitely go give this a read if you want to kind of like see what Maker's been up to over the last five or so weeks with DAI, because it's really awesome. All right, so Ben Edgington's usual round of updates in his What's New in ETH2 newsletter, all about like the Beacon chain and Altair and how successful it was. Bunch of links in here for you to, I guess, view. Kintsugi, the new merge testnet, he covers that as well. Covers the fork choice vulnerabilities that I spoke about the other day, and tooling, staking. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, in research. As I've said before, this is the best newsletter ever to keep up with ETH2. So definitely go check this out and subscribe to it as well. And you can get all the latest on what's happening in ETH2 and everything surrounding it. And finally here, I mentioned this, I think on one of last week's Refuel, the next Ethereum network upgrade is called Arrow Glacier, and it will be coming to the Ethereum mainnet on December 8th, 2021. Now, this is not the merge. This is not an exciting update. This is simply an upgrade that will basically push the difficulty bomb back to June 2022, because it was set to go off in December. So December 8th, 2021 is when Arrow Glacier goes live. The only EIP included is the one that knocks back the difficulty bomb, because if that thing goes off, what ends up happening is that the block times get really long and eventually the chain freezes and Ethereum pretty much like comes to a halt. And the reason why this mechanism exists is because it's supposed to force the network to keep upgrading over time and not get stagnated. It kind of was born out of Bitcoin stagnating over time. And there are debates around, do we need the difficulty bomb anymore? Should we remove it after the merge? But for now, it's staying in, but as I said, it has been delayed to June 2022, where the merge, if the merge happens by June 2022, what will end up happening is that the merge will go through with another difficulty bomb adjustment, and it'll be kind of like pushed back again. So yeah, I think that's it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.